Brazil excites one's soul, its beauty dazzling the beholder. The intensity of light and brilliance of color stirs the imagination. Brazil is known for its rich vegetation, vast landscape, and its stunningly beautiful mixed-raced population. The beauty of its people is, well, simply breathtaking. Brazil is a country of stunning beauty manifested by its amazing beaches in the state of Bahia, the sprawling waterfalls in Foz do Iguaçu, the Amazon, Christ the Redeemer with open arms atop Cocobad Mountain overlooking Rio de Janeiro is perhaps Brazil's greatest landmark. It is a country of wonderful contradictions, the world's fifth largest nation in physical size, exceeded only by Russia, China, the United States, and Canada. It remains South America's only Portuguese-speaking nation, is the world's largest Catholic country, and is home to the world's sixth largest population. Brazil's news media includes highly professional newspapers, magazines, and the powerful television network Rede Globo de Televisão, home of South America's most aggressive journalists. In recent years, they have investigated banking scandals, environmental abuses, the massacres of Amazon Indians, governmental corruption, and the increasingly aggressive murders of local street children, commonly known as street urchins, who are regarded by wealthy merchants as public nuisances who need to be swept off Rio's streets. The media also exposed the infamous esquadros de morte, also known as death squads. They are typically made up of off-duty or retired local police officers who routinely target children in the various favelas around the country, mostly Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. Rio enjoys an enormous tourist trade and boasts of celebrity shopping districts, who some believe rival Beverly Hills' famous Rodeo Drive. To both protect the district and its profits, enterprising proprietors turn to extreme and inhumane means of sweeping the district. The result is the literal extermination of any street children who dare to sleep in front of their magnificent, famously branded shops. Shopkeepers have been known to hire off-duty local cops or former military-trained personnel to exterminate these unnamed and unwanted children. It is no surprise that this targeting simply generates more crimes of survival. A classic catch-22 situation. On a hot and stifling day in March 1997, innocent residents in the working-class sections of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro were summarily shot, savagely beaten, and robbed by Brazil's uniformed military police, shocking the nation and causing profound soul-searching from within the nation's people and its government. This event in South America's most successful country was not surprising to many. In a nation of 170 million people, 35 million adults and 21 million children live below the poverty line and somehow survive on less than $1 per day. Brazil is a country which has lost its youth to drugs, violence, and increasingly organized criminal enterprise. The escalating violence testifies to Brazil's struggle as the country seeks to cope with the thousands of children wandering its streets.
What motivated me to be part of this process is I was tired to see so many children on the streets, and I could not do everything, just one thing for everybody, because they were multiplying. They were everywhere you go, you see kids like that. So what I thought, if I do something for one, maybe I did my part. So that's because it motivated me to help a small group, and I'm glad to know that Cidade dos Meninos now helped more than 500.
I think when we first started the program, what we wanted to be was like Mother Teresa, where we would have places all over the world, just institutions all over the world, because the problem is so big. But what we realized is that if you have taken a vow with these kids to be their parents, they're not ready. What kid is ready to leave home at 18? Especially even if they've had vocational training, even if they have the high school, although most of them are completing high school still after they leave the program, because they come at 12 years old not knowing how to read or write. So, they might be doing continuing education when they leave us. we realized, no, we need to, if we want to see this cycle of poverty broken, we're going to have to walk with them and be their parents with them as they get married, as they have children, as they get that 7-year itch, as they get fired from their first job. Really, Tyann, was one of the first ones, or his group, where he got his first girlfriend, and he went to his girlfriend's house for dinner to meet the parents. Where's he supposed to bring her? Who's she supposed to meet? So that became us, So that's when we started the graduate program now, and where we have the graduate church, and the drop-in center, where our kids are our kids for life, and they know that. And we do keep in touch with them. They do not fall through the cracks. They make choices, yes, and not all of them succeed, but they're making choices, and they know that whenever they change their mind, and if they're going to be the prodigal son or daughter at that moment, that they can still come back to us. It's a tough love. I mean, it's not like they can do anything and come back, But when they're serious, our arms, just like parents, are always open to them. And Philip and I have said we're not going to know if we're successful or not until we see if their kids are doing well.
By far the largest and most populous country in South America, Brazil underwent more than half a century of military government until 1985, when the military regime peacefully conceded power to civilian rulers. Brazil continues to pursue industrial and agricultural growth and development of its interior, exploiting vast natural resources and a large labor pool. It is today South America's fastest-growing economy. Brazil is an economically powerful country and enjoys the 7th largest economy by nominal GDP and is the 8th largest by purchasing power worldwide, yet has the world's 2nd worst income distribution. A controlling 10% of the population receives almost 50% of its income, while the poorest 10% receive less than 1% of this rich nation's income. This has resulted over the past 100 years in the birth of the notorious favelas in Brazil's most affluent urban communities. Facts: 40 bodies of persons described as unidentified is not alarmist. 40 children are buried each day in Rio de Janeiro. Although a lowball statistic, roughly 2 children are assassinated daily in Rio alone. These are victims of police and paramilitary hit squads. As one official admitted, every day street children are being murdered by the police. Every day I hear a different story, a true story, something which actually happened. We are killing more children than anyone can imagine. One year in one small city, 3,000 unidentified bodies were brought to the morgue. Most were between ages 12 and 16. One case study concluded that a child's chance of dying in Brazil is 8 to 9 times greater than in the Middle East. Life expectancy on the streets is 2 to 4 years. According to the government officials and aggressive media reporting, the extermination of street children continues unabated in the city of Rio de Janeiro and, frankly, throughout the land. The lesson learned from a few of Brazil's anti-administration politicians is that the arbitrary killings must be kept from public view. We disagree.
We have kids here at Hope who have death warrants on them. A father stole money from a drug lord. A mother didn't turn the money into her pimp. They don't just come in and kill the offender. They put out a death warrant on the entire family. We have kids whose pictures we cannot allow to appear on film, in any of our presentations, on any of our publications, on our website, because they're essentially being hidden out from people that would like to kill them.
Brazil is believed to have the highest number of street children in Latin America. It also has one of the world's most unequal distributions of wealth. Much of the problem traces to the speed of the country's transition from rural to urban society, which quickly exhausted housing and public services such as water supply, sanitary facilities, healthcare, and education. Unable to cover even basic family needs, parents in shantytowns or favelas began sending their children into the streets to earn money. Others escaped abusive homes.
One of the numbers that really frightens us is that we are told that 500,000 pre-adolescent girls are forced into prostitution every year. They may be pushed into that by a stepfather. It may happen as a result of a gang in the favela, or it may just be that the culture of the favela is such that the girl herself turns to that. And when you stop and you think about those kind of numbers, that is essentially one child every minute is becoming a prostitute. And these are beautiful little girls, precious, sweet, what you would think was innocent. But we know how their lives turn out. We know that once they enter that lifestyle and once they turn to the streets, that they'll probably only live 3 to 5 years. And that's what we're trying to address, and that's what we're trying to give them a different alternative, to give them another way of life. So, sometimes I get asked, why Brazil? We look around and we see problems in the U.S. We see kids that are hungry. We see kids that are abused. We see kids that are exploited. And I think I respond to that in several ways. My first and immediate response is, if that's where your heart is and that's what you're being called to do it. Absolutely. Go help those kids. That's not where we are. And I would also then say that there's a level of, there's a difference in degree. That when we talk about abuse in the U.S., and we talk about things in the U.S., there are at least structures to intervene in those children's lives. There are authorities that can do something for those kids. There are foster systems, which are not always great, but at least they provide an outlet. For the kids of Brazil, for the kids that are on the street, we are their last chance. I mentioned earlier the numbers, 3 to 5 years life expectancy. If we don't get to these kids here, they're gone. It's not just that their lives are not going to be good, they're dead. The kids are dead. That's what they have to look forward to.
This is where the story of Philip Smith and Hope Unlimited begins.
Philip came to Brazil because he wanted to carry on the work that his dad had begun actually in Ethiopia. And he had seen the way that impacted lives, and he had seen where so many of those kids had gone and how they'd gone on to do great things. And he wanted the same kind of thing to happen for the kids of Brazil. And he came here without any money to start the program, without the hope of an orphanage. And in less than 2 decades, we have 3 primary campuses. We have graduate homes. We have a program that works, and we have thousands of kids that have gone through this program. And so many of them, they look at Philip and they recognize that their lives are changed because of his commitment to them. I've never known anyone who could see a problem and see a solution and then discern that path. He understands where they are and where they need to be, but more importantly, he understands the path from one to the other. And that's a rare talent.
The Brazilian Youth Authority began sending children to the City of Youth. Its criteria stipulating youngsters who are on the streets, have no viable homes or guardians, and are in imminent peril. Boys 12 to 15 and girls 8 to 18 are accepted into the City of Youth. And because girls are favorite targets of prostitution rings, they are accepted at earlier ages than the boys.
If we see a girl that's 12 years old, we assume that she's been pushed into prostitution. That's just the way the numbers are. We see them all the time. Virtually every child that we have here at Hope is a child that came out of some form of exploitation or abuse. One of the hidden problems that's not talked about a lot in Brazil is a problem of incest. We hear story after story, and usually it's a stepfather. One of the favelas where we work, there's about somewhere around 70–80% of the folks in there are single family homes. And there's a stepfather or a boyfriend that is in and out of the home, and over again, that person is abusing the little girls. We went to a home about a year ago, and we're talking to the mother. She'd asked to see us, and we were sat down and we talked to her. She had a daughter that was 13, and she said, every day my boyfriend is raping my little girl. It happens every single night. And we asked her what she was going to do about it. She says, I can't do anything about it. If I go to the authorities, he'll kill me and he'll kill the little girl too, and then he'll disappear. And so she asked us to go to the authorities and to talk to them and see what we could do. So our social workers reported her to the folks that were in charge, and their question to the social workers were, are you sure she's not 14? No, she's 13. Well, what's the issue with being 14? If she's 14, it's no longer a crime. It's considered, even when it's forcible, if they're in the same home, it's still considered consensual once the child turns 14. The social worker's answer was, well, we'll just wait 3 months and then it won't be our problem anymore. And we see things like that happen over and over again. There's a system here that is absolutely broken. And we can't take care of all the kids, but there are some kids that we can really have an impact in their lives.
The thing that gives me the most joy and the most fulfillment in life is transformation. Seeing a child transform, seeing a person transform, seeing a person that had bad habits, that was unhappy, that was in a bad situation, to see them come to a place where they can feel fulfilled, where their self-esteem is raised up. And that's what gives me the most joy. The thing that gives me the most joy in life, put in simpler terms, is to see a smile on somebody's face. Whether, as my wife knows, it's cracking a joke to the toll booth operator and making him smile, or to investing my time and my energy and my resources to try to put the smile on the face of a child who's living in desperate poverty in a slum. Putting a smile on their face, but not that hollow smile, but putting a smile that you really know, and light in their eyes that you really know comes from their hearts being raised up, and their hearts being buoyant.
Because of the extreme challenges and disappointments involved in working with girls, very few programs exist for them. Most of the children who now live at the City of Youth had found the streets with hardship and death preferable to what they experience in their own homes. Hope's vision for Brazil was launched in 1991, when gunmen largely hired by local business leaders were systematically killing thousands of vulnerable street children. Their purpose for these killings was to eradicate a public nuisance. In other words, Brazil's street children.
Well, I know you're going to laugh, but I'm going to start with the joy. I think the best moment in my life at this point was seeing 2 of our kids graduate from college. That was incredible for us, to think that these kids that we were hoping that they'd get an 8th grade education, and to see them graduate from college, one of them straight A's, robotic engineering, you know, and both firm in the church, loving the Lord. That was an amazing moment for us. When Diana, our first graduate, graduated from the program and she went back, the girls said to her, "What's it like? Are you hungry? Are you eating?" I mean, they just had no vision for what the possibility would be. And I think that even though this first generation that is now graduating and making their mark, they had it the hardest, but now the other kids are going to have examples of what the possibilities for them are, and that's really exciting.
In the city of hope, in the city of hope, you and I seen so much in a short time. Live and breathe on these streets like a lost tribe. Watch the world pass us by. We play in the dirt, bidding castles in our minds, 'cause we got no place to go. If you close your eyes, we'll try to rise above the noise. If only for a second a day, we could walk where the streets were paved with gold. City of hope, where the lights shine bright. And we pray for the time someone will hear skies. Live on faith, hope, and the dreams of change.